Chapter 9. Beaverton, City of Ash. Smoke and ash everywhere. Here rests a smoldering heap of what once was a thriving town. I could feel my heart pounding. My muscles were trembling, wanting to thrash out in anger while my brain was telling me to panic, to run far away from this. I could feel my anxiety building as I got closer and closer to what remained of the town's entrance. Great walls were once erected around this town, but they lay reduced to charred wood and warped, melting metal. Who or what could have done this? I think Onion was trying to tell me something, but my focus was singular, with one goal in mind: find any survivors. As I moved into the town, a strong wind started to blow smoke and ash in my face. I started to cough. The combination of loose slag tossed into the air and the increased putridness of burning flesh, it was making it hard to concentrate on the task before me. I stopped, pulled out some safety goggles and a bandana, wrapped it around my mouth and nose. It wasn't perfect, but it helped immensely. I buttoned up my trench coat and continued on. Whatever did this was merciless. Not a single building was left standing. Even what I had assumed were holding tanks for water had been ruptured. If it had held water once, it was dry. The heat of the flames must have evaporated it all. The first thing I noticed was the giant charred sign lying on the ground before me. It was split in half, but I recognized the word Beaverton on it. The charring looked fairly recent. This attack must have just happened earlier in the day. If I had to guess, I'd say 3 or 4 hours ago. I could still feel the heat from some of the wood scattered around me, and the occasional flicker of a flame. While there were no buildings left standing, what I could do was dig through the rubble. I told Onion to keep his sensors open, monitoring for sound, movement, or any other signs of life. So far, all I found were bodies. Even through the fabric on my face, I could smell death. I did all I could to hold back my nausea. I found the remains of a table with what looked like food scattered around, with 4 bodies surrounding it. They must have been enjoying a meal when they died. There was no signs of a struggle. At one moment they were alive, happy. The next they were dead. Burned alive in their own home. I moved on to the remnants of other buildings. It was all the same. Many died in their own homes doing whatever it was they typically did. It was even worse once I got to the center of the town. The attack must have happened during the peak of trade hours. I saw what looked like booths and burnt tents scattered. It must have looked like one of those old-fashioned outdoor markets I'd read about in history books. Vendors selling wares while troves of people made their way through, trying to get what they needed. There, in the dead center of it all, was a crater lined with ash. That must have been ground zero for this attack. Was it a bomb? I looked closer. There were no bodies here. The explosion must have been so strong that it vaporized anything within feet of it. It was still hot. The fallen ash had covered any signs of who was responsible. Paw prints, hoof marks, nothing was identifiable. This place looked like it had seen hundreds of animals a day, and I was trying to figure this out. But my head was not having it. Between the smoke, the smell, and the anxiety, I couldn't think straight. I got up and continued to look. There had to be someone alive, or at least something to tell me who the fuck could have done this. Miss, you should come over here. Did you find a survivor? I turned my head in his direction. Once I got past the initial blast radius, the bodies and debris appeared again. I moved carefully, not wanting to step on anything or anyone. I couldn't help them. There were too many even to give a good burial. But I can at least make sure I treat their bodies with respect. And once I find out who did this, I'll give these poor souls the retribution they deserved. When I got to where Onion was, the first thing I noticed was that it had been a much larger building than the rest. The foundation was at least 3 times the size. It must have held a great deal of animals in it. Was it a place for travelers to rest? One thing I did notice, however, was the lack of bodies. Thankfully, this place must have been vacant. I saw Onion over to one corner where part of the walls and roof were still intact. "What did you find, Onion?" He didn't have to respond. I took off my goggles so I could see better. Crouched in the corner was a pig. I couldn't make out the gender. The skin was blackened. Most of the clothing was burned, but I could tell that some of it had gotten ripped away as well. I walked over, taking it very slow so that the pig didn't see me as a threat. It didn't say anything, but suddenly collapsed to the ground. I rushed over. "Onion, vitals!"
"He's alive, miss, but just barely."
I went over to try to help him up. I grabbed his burned arm and suddenly he recoiled as he spoke. I can't feel." "Sir, I'm here to help. Please. What can I do?" "How?" "Easy there. You're badly burned. Onion, do we have anything that could help?"
"I'm sorry, miss. Even with the supplies that Mr. Bow gave us, we have nothing that can help such bad burns."
"No! There has to be something we can do." I couldn't take no for an answer. I had to help him. But how? He tried to get up again, but then fell. "Please, are they... I tried. Who? Are there any other survivors? If I could save even a few." Onion drifted towards me and spoke in a low tone.
"There do not appear to be any other signs of life on my readings."
"Who did this to you?" Rednecks." Rednecks? That name sounded familiar. Didn't I hear those two outside the stadium mention them? The wolf seemed rather nervous when he mentioned their name. The children. Are they... Children? Oh no. Please, no. I got up and looked around. I saw no bodies. Then, I noticed a large piece of metal that was very out of place on the floor. I went over to it and grabbed one end. It was very heavy, but I managed to move it just enough to see that it covered an opening. Then, it hit me. The smell was worse than anything here. I think part of me knew what to expect, but I had to make sure. I went around to the opening and glanced down. Heat billowed up and distorted the air around it. I covered my mouth and nose with my paw, the bandana being useless. I turned on my Pip-Boy's light and shone it down in the hole. I couldn't hold it anymore. I vomited. Inside was at least a dozen bodies. Their fur had fallen off and their skin was bubbling. I knew who they were. It was the children. This was a school. This was a fucking school. When the attack happened, he must have led them down thinking they would be safe, not knowing he had just put them into a giant oven. To mindlessly kill adults, that was one thing, but these were children. These were fucking innocent children. These rednecks, whoever they are, they will pay. When my nausea calmed down, I collected myself. I dragged the metal back over it. There was nothing I could do. This would be their tomb. I walked back over to the pig, my thoughts swimming with what I would do to those responsible if, no, when I found them. I knelt beside the pig and placed my paw on his back. His nerves must have been deadened from the burn because he didn't react. The children, are they okay? They're... I couldn't get myself to tell him that they were all dead. That his helping them only caused them to suffer greater. The tears were starting to fall.
Miss, I ran a complete analysis of his condition. It's not good. Even if he somehow managed to live, his skin would be so badly burned there's no chance of a full epidermal recovery. He's blind in one eye, his lungs were severely damaged due to the smoke inhalation, and at least one of his legs has suffered enough trauma that it will not likely be able to walk again without proper medical treatment. Treatment that, I'm sorry to say, is probably not within reach.
He wasn't going to make it. He struggled to look up at me, one eye a clouded globe, the other looking as if he wanted to cry, but the tears were not coming. Miss, please. I know that it's my time. I'm done. I can't feel anything. Please. End my suffering. Protect the children. No. You can make it. You have to. The children are dead. Cooked to death from your own mistake? No. No one deserves to know that. The children are safe, but you... I'm already dead. Please. I don't know how, but I knew what I had to do. Even if he did manage to make it through, he would eventually learn of his mistake, and have to live with the pain of both their loss and his disability. I started feeling tears fall down on my face as I pulled out my own gun. Part of me didn't want him to see me like this, but the other part, I know that in his position, I would want to see that they cared when they ended my pain. I put the gun to his head as he closed his eyes. Thank you. I pulled the trigger. It was clean and quick. He fell to the ground, a smile upon his face. I didn't even know his name. He could have been a teacher, a parent. Maybe he was the mayor. I'll never know. Just as he will never know that he was protecting those who were dead. They say ignorance is bliss. And at times like this, I couldn't agree more.
Miss.
Not now, Onion. Not now. I collapsed to the ground as I let it all out. This world was cruel. It was horrible. Why the hell did I even begin to think that I could find a better life out here? Everything that I've seen of this world makes me wish I was still back in Burrow 76 cleaning out toilets. At least then I'd still be ignorant to the cruelty that exists. I don't know how long I was sitting there, my tears still flowing as they came from some never-ending river. Every time I thought this world had flung its worst at me, it comes up with something even more horrible. I've only been on the surface for a few days, and I already could feel my life being drained by some unseen leech, draining the life force of everyone who comes here to extend its own horrible existence. Each time I closed my eyes, I could see the faces of those taken by cruelty. The cheetah who simply wanted to help her husband, Beau's wife and child, fearing for their lives as they would have been sold to someone who would do who knows what to them. I saw faces of children, screaming as their flesh melted from their bones. The surrounding smells emphasized that vivid image. I tried to vomit again, but I had nothing in me. I was feeling as empty as those around me. I felt a small poke on my backside. I turned towards the source, my eyes feeling sore from all the tears that I had shed. It was Onion. He floated beside me, not saying a word, but I could tell he was doing his best to comfort me, like an arm on my shoulder. I'm sorry, Onion.
It's okay, miss. This is a lot for anyone to handle.
No. I'm sorry for everything. You were right. I was being selfish. To me and to you. I dragged you out here when you advised against it. Because of what? Not getting my perfect job? Not having friends or family to lean on? I'm a stupid, selfish rabbit who doesn't even deserve to have you by my side.
Miss Springs. Olivia, you are not stupid. Misinformed, brash, stubborn, and at times a bit scatterbrained. But you are not stupid.
I wiped my eyes and actually felt a smile running across my face. Gee, thanks for the compliments.
In the time we've been out here, I have seen you find a way to save us from ghouls, rescue animals in distress, and even disarm explosive collars with relative ease. On top of that, if those slavers had made it here, they would have befallen the same fate as this town. You have contributed more out here for your fellow mammals than you would have ever in the Burrow. Yes, I thought it was a mistake to leave. But, as you have said, something has chosen you, be it fate, destiny, or simple luck. I believe that if anyone can help, it is you. But not if you're going to sit around here wallowing in self-pity.
Onion was right. I am here, and there's no turning back. If I can do anything to help a fellow mammal, I will do it. Even if that means making sacrifices of my own. This world may have been broken, but I have a knack for fixing things, and I will die trying to. I slowly got up, trying not to look at the pig or the metal plate. I had to keep focused. I can't do anything to help them now, but at least I can try to get some retribution. We need to see if anyone else is alive. We need to help anyone we can.
I decided you needed some alone time, so I went searching for any survivors. I'm sad to say I was unsuccessful. It looks like the mayor will not be receiving his letter.
The letter? I had almost forgotten about the letter Onion had found on the cheetah's wagon. I tore open the side of the envelope and pulled out the folded letter inside. Mayor Augustus Brown. I hope that this letter reaches you in time. I have reports of a group of rednecks heading towards your town, and I don't believe they're coming to trade. Rumors have been spreading that you're trying to cut into the slave prince's operation. My people have assured him that that is not the case, but it seems that he's hired the rednecks to pay you a visit, and I don't think it will end well. I have dispatched this letter with some trustworthy traders who just so happen to be en route to Beaverton. To deliver this warning, do not try to combat them. I suggest complete evacuation. I will try to fix things on my end, but until this blows over, Beaverton will be a target. Sincerely, your friend, Matt. It was a warning. They were trying to warn Beaverton. If those damned ghouls hadn't attacked the wagon, if those fuckers didn't kill the cheetah in cold blood, then this town, these children may have been spared. Even if the town was burned to the ground, as long as they had lived, it could have been rebuilt. But no. The message didn't make it. These people, innocent or not, these people suffered. And all because some fucker thought these people were cutting into their business. A paw full of caps is not grounds for mass murder. I need to pay this slave prince a visit. Unfortunately, I'm lacking the knowledge of his whereabouts. And despite what I've been through, I've only survived through pure luck. And if he can afford someone to destroy an entire town, I doubt I could do anything. I needed help. And I had an idea on where to start. Onion, we're leaving. There's nothing left here, and we need to get moving.
I agree, miss. But where to now?
Hope. We're gonna pay our friend Bo a visit. I lost track of how long it had been since we left Beaverton. I didn't really remember what time it was when we arrived there. The only thing I could think about was tracking down the monster that did this, and making him suffer. The burned corpses, the faces of children. It was all I could think of. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. My tears dried up a while back. I wanted to be sad, but I couldn't anymore. Anger and hate was slowly consuming me. If fate had chosen me to be a hero, it could have at least told me what I was getting into. To be honest, if I'd known about any of this, I probably would have just laughed in fate's face and said, no, nothing could be that bad. I couldn't have been further from the truth. I didn't even know where we were going. I blindly followed a blip on my Pip-Boar. Onion had programmed our destination based upon what maps we had found of the area. I didn't care where I went, or what I encountered along the way. I had to get to Hope, and ask Bo for help. I needed a strong set of arms to help me. I just hoped that he'd agree to help. He didn't talk too kindly of Beaverton, but what if his slavers had been there when it was attacked? If they had not met me, Bo, his wife, his daughter might have been among the corpses. I was so deep in my thoughts I didn't notice the obstacle below me until I tripped and planted face first into the ground.
Miss, are you all right?
Do I look all right?
Miss, I was only...
I'm sorry, Onion. I shouldn't have snapped at you. It's just... I have a lot on my mind right now. I'm having so many emotions pour through me that I don't think my brain has the capacity to process anything.
It has been an exhausting day for you, miss, both mentally and physically. That is why I believe you need to rest. You already know what dangers are out here, and adding exhaustion to the mix is not healthy.
Once again, Onion was right. Onion might be annoying to me at times, but he does care. Having a mind comprised of logic can be helpful at times, especially when I'm feeling so very lost. All right, Onion. Let's find a good place to set up camp. How about over there? Despite the encroaching darkness, I was able to make out a few buildings that looked mostly intact. One of them was boarded up really well, but the other one had a small opening that Onion and I could barely fit through. Onion asked to go first, to make sure it was safe. I agreed, knowing that if there was something inside, I was not sure if I would be able to think myself out of it in my condition. My head was starting to clear a bit, and hopefully after a good night's sleep, I would be able to think straight again. It was a 2-story building, and it seemed fairly intact from the outside. Onion was in there for a while without informing me of anything. After about 15 minutes, I was starting to get worried. I didn't hear anything, but from what I've seen out here, I should expect anything. For all I know, something could have developed the ability to eat robots. And that would be just my luck, too. After another 5 minutes, I was getting antsy. I decided that I was going in after him. I turned on my Pip-Boar's light and shone it through the hole. I didn't see anything out of place, so I risked entering. I was very careful about going through the shattered doorway, trying not to impale myself with any shards of wood. Last thing I needed was a splinter getting infected. Death by splinter. Wouldn't that make a lackluster demise after what I've been through? When I got inside, I turned to take a look around, but my face was inches away from something. In a panic, I threw my paw forward and hit whatever it was. Fuck. That hurt.
Miss, why did you just punch me?
It was Onion. Great, Olivia. You just punched your only friend. That would explain why it felt like I had just punched a brick. Oh, sorry, Onion. You just startled me is all. I was getting worried. Is everything okay?
Apart from some structural damage that would not pass the most lenient inspection, it appears to be safe. I, however, have an extra dent to deal with.
I said I was sorry. I looked around the room I was in. Just like everything else, there was a good amount of dust over it. Nothing looked like it had been touched in a very long time. So hopefully there were no surprises. I was starting to hate surprises. I saw an almost intact bookshelf standing against the wall. Most of the books were tattered, age having destroyed them. The bookcase itself was only missing a few shelves. I walked up to it and put my shoulder against it. With what little energy I had left, I managed to push it against the hole we came in through. I didn't want any unexpected visitors tonight.
There are beds upstairs, but the floor looks quite degraded. Perhaps we should just stay on this floor?
Would it support me? Just for a moment? I want to look around just to make sure everything's good. Not that I don't trust your sensors, but I think I need to give myself a little peace of mind.
As long as you don't do anything like play hopscotch up there, it should be fine. Just be careful, miss.
I was feeling better already. Sure, I still wanted to take vengeance against whoever destroyed Beaverton, but I didn't feel like hate's claws guided me anymore. Once I get some sleep, I think it'll be a lot better. I slowly climbed the stairs. Every one seemed to creak louder than the last. I think if anything was here, they would have heard me by now. Once I got to the top of the stairs, I noticed 3 rooms. One on either side of me with their doors closed, and one open directly ahead, its door slightly ajar. I slowly crept past the 2 closed doors and reached the ajar one. Placing my paw on it, I slowly opened it as it squeaked. Inside was a baby's crib, with a small bed next to it. Some kind of mobile hung above it, featuring tiny stuffed dolls. One looked like a gazelle from the poster in the stadium, and the others were tigers, I think. I reached out and spun it. I searched the room but didn't find anything useful. On one of the dressers was some framed pictures. I picked one up and dusted it off. In the picture were 3 sheep. A ewe on the right was dressed in a cute little sundress, while the ram on the left was dressed in some kind of uniform. I think it was a police uniform. They were holding what looked like a baby. While their parents had large fluffy wool, the baby was barely covered in little white fuzz. It had probably only been a few months old. I put the picture down and dusted off another. This one was just a picture of the father, dressed in the same uniform, outside the same house standing in front of a large police car. That thing looked more like a tank, with all its hard edges. The last frame's glass was shattered, and its contents were missing. I wonder what happened to them. I left the room and closed the door behind me. I know the residents would never come back, but it felt like the proper thing to do. I went to the left side room and slowly opened the door. Minus the same layer of dust and a broken window, the room looked spotless. The bed was neatly made. There was nothing scattered on the floor, save for the window glass. The only thing out of place was on the dresser. There were frames like the one in the baby's room, but this time, all 4 of them had their pictures removed. I searched the room, but once again I didn't find much. All the clothes were too large for me, and there were no supplies or other helpful items. I did, however, find a locked drawer in the desk over in the corner. I knew I should be respectful, but for some reason, every time something was locked, curiosity overwhelmed me. I pulled out 2 of the antennas that were left from my previous lockpicking and went to work. I almost snapped this one, but after a minute the lock popped. I was getting better at this, although I might have to find some replacements soon. I doubt I would get this lucky again. There were only 4 things inside: a small gun, a box of ammo, and a small box and an unmarked envelope. The ammo was luckily the same kind my gun used, so I pocketed it. I also took the gun. If anything, it might be worth trading. That left the box and the envelope. The envelope was not sealed. Rather, it was tucked into itself. I opened it carefully and read its contents.
Dear Mrs. Stockram, it's my solemn duty as Chief of the Zootopia Police Department to inform you that your husband, Officer Marty Stockram, was killed in the line of duty. He served both his department and his community with the utmost regard. In his 12 years at the ZPD, he upheld the law with compassion for both his fellow officers and fellow mammals. As with standard procedures, we have delivered all of your husband's belongings to you, along with the gift that was to be given to him upon his retirement. We know that this will not help ease your loss, nor is it meant to, but rather to show that he was both an upstanding officer and citizen of Zootopia. His funeral expenses will be paid for by the ZPD, and you'll be contacted within 24 hours to make arrangements for the funeral. You have the deepest regards from both myself along with the entire precinct. If you need anything, feel free to contact me directly. Chief Burrow, ZPD, Precinct 1.
With that, my emotions started to flood back. I didn't know them, but I knew what it would be like to grow up without knowing your father. This letter must have been devastating. And to happen after starting a family? I pulled myself together and picked up the box. This must have been the retirement gift. I opened it slowly. Inside was one of the Treasure of Zootopia coins. On the side that was facing me was the head of a ram, not too dissimilar to the one that I saw in the picture. I carefully took it out and flipped it over. On the other side was printed the word kindness. I wanted to put it back. I should have put it back. But just like the other two, they seemed to be calling to me. I put the box back in the drawer with the letter, and I put the coin in the bag with the other two. It didn't have a family to call home anymore. So what better than to unite it with its other family? I left the room and closed the door behind me. One more door left. And after what I saw, I really hope I didn't find any bodies behind the door. This place looked way too orderly for them to have just vacated it. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and opened the door. I opened one eye and breathed in relief. It was empty, just like the other ones. While the other two were bedrooms, this one was more like an office. Hanging on the wall was a map of the city of Zootopia. There were posters of Gazelle, each one having some kind of motivational message: try everything, harmony between predators and prey, Zootopia where anyone can be anything. Sitting on the desk was a picture of the gazelle signed Gazelle. So the gazelle's name was Gazelle. Kinda odd to be named after your own species, but at least it's not hard to forget. He must have been a fan. Next to it was a picture of him standing to a rather rotund cheetah. Both were wearing the same white shirts that featured a large red heart above them with the word Gazelle. Guess they were both Gazelle fans. Next to the desk, the Rams police officer uniform was hanging neatly, like a museum piece. On the wall were plaques commemorating Officer Stockram. He must have been a really good officer. This world needs animals like that. There was nothing else that stuck out to me here, except for something sticking out from underneath a bed. I bent down and saw that it was a very large black case. I slowly pulled it out and wiped off the dust. Inside was some more ammo that I did not recognize, and the disassembled parts of what looked like a very large rifle. I pulled up the files on my pipboard to identify it. It was a Remington M24 police-issue sniper rifle. Thankfully, the file also told me how to assemble the gun. I was very curious and put it together. Thankfully, it was easy enough, like rebuilding a stripped-down micropump, only without the excessive rust. Once it was assembled, I could tell that it was not meant for someone as small as me. From the barrel to the stock was almost twice my height. There was no way I could use this, let alone carry it. Even disassembled, the case was huge. I decided to strip it down again, saving any parts that I could potentially use. "Hey, Onion!" I think I was starting to worry him again because at the sound of his name he came rushing up the stairs.
Is everything all right, miss?
"Yeah, everything's fine. This place doesn't look as bad as you made it out to be. I think I'm going to try to rest up here. Do me a favor and keep an eye out on this place. If you detect anything, inside or out, you come and you wake me up instantly. Don't call out or use a communications channel. Come get me personally, just in case."
Yes, miss. What do you have there?
It's some kind of rifle. It's way too heavy for me to use, but I might find some use for its parts. After I tinker around with it, I'm gonna try to get some sleep. It's been a really long day, so I doubt I'll have any trouble falling asleep. First thing in the morning, we set out towards Hope.
Yes, miss. Sleep well.